Hey everyone, I am here today with Families Fly Free member Heather Hill. So, another in our ongoing series of interviewing members and getting their feedback and advice and help for you and what they've experienced as members and how they've gone through this journey of learning how to fly for free. So, let me just start by having Heather, would you just introduce yourself? Just tell us a little bit about you and your travel style, where you live, that kind of stuff.
Well, my name is Heather, obviously. I'm actually live in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I should say my home airport is Detroit, which is another Delta hub. I kind of laugh at people that talk about the different hubs. So we have a Delta hub here, but we do have Southwest that flies through here as you do a lot of teaching about Southwest. But anyway, so I live in a Delta hub, live in Ann Arbor. I'm a single mom. I have a 17-year-old son who's a senior in high school. And really my travel style was kind of based on things that we want to check off our list, things that we wanted to do together as he was growing up that, I definitely want to do the Disney trip. So that was a trip we did in 2013 and wanted to go to New York City. So we went to New York City and, just kind of to start to figure out what he wanted to do and what we wanted to do together. But I always tend to do things that are, I want to do the regular things, but then I want to do something a little bit different than the regular things. So I'm the tourist, but not the tourist. I always like to stay in Airbnbs. I love vacation rentals because I like to get the local flavor of everything. So I'm definitely an Airbnb lover, VRBO, all that kind of stuff. So I like to travel like everybody else, kind of the typical traveler, typical destinations, but I do it kind of in a different way because I always like to travel as a local as often as possible.
Yeah, we like to do that too, or you kind of mix it up a little bit, but it's so fun to actually, that's what I love about vacation rentals is you can kind of pretend like, what if I lived here? What would this be like? Right? You kind
Yeah,
of blend
exactly.
in with the locals.
You go to the local grocery store and you get to, chat with the locals and, what do you have special here and things like that. And we've had some amazing experiences. My son has some great memories of going to the grocery store in Queens, New York. And he talks about that over and over and over again about how he remembers what it was like in the aisles and what it felt like and in a grocery store in the city like that. And so things like that just, we wouldn't do if we were in a hotel.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell us about some of the trips that you've been able to take. I remember when you first joined, you were definitely wanting to take your son to look at colleges, I think. And I know you just got back from a yoga retreat, right?
Did. Yeah. Good
So why don't you
memory.
just tell us, maybe some of the things that you've done and how the membership was able to help you with that?
All right. So the membership I joined almost a year ago because I heard it was either in an interview on a podcast or you did it in one of your newsletters. And I can't remember, Lynn. You talked about how someone had made a comment that they were so thankful for the membership because they were able to take their child to all these college visits and not have to worry about the cost of it. And I heard this a year ago when my son was a junior. And I went, oh my gosh. I'm a year away from this. And I know my son is in musical theater and to audition for schools is a huge project and it's a lot of money and it's a lot of travel. And I just knew that I couldn't afford to do that. And I thought, now what am I going to do? And I heard that comment, like I said, either on the podcast or in a newsletter, that I thought, this is something I really need to think about and really need to consider because I've got to find a way to get him where he needs to go in order to help him get where he wants to go ultimately. So I joined the membership for that. So I'm kind of at the beginning of that process. We're now beginning a senior year and we're beginning the audition process. So our first audition is actually his, not mine. His first audition is in November, but we'll start traveling to auditions in January. So I'm kind of all set to do that. But I got my companion pass. I joined the membership at the end of last year, got everything all set, got my companion pass at the beginning of this year, and was able to go to Colorado in April with a good friend of mine. We've been hoping to do a girls' trip together for a long time. So we did that together. Had a great time at Rocky Mountain National Park. And then, a friend of my, another friend of mine and I have been talking about doing a yoga retreat together for a long time. And that's what we did over Labor Day weekend. And then I told my son, because we had this companion pass, made these points, I said, okay, what do you want to do this summer for vacation? And he was adamant he wanted to go to Hawaii. And I'm like, well, I'm not 100% sure I can make that happen because it's, expensive summer. So give me some other ideas. And I threw out a bunch of ideas and he's like, yeah, whatever. I want to go to Hawaii. And I'm like, again, I need some extra ideas here because so we figured out maybe a backup plan if we needed to, but I was able to work out going to Hawaii. So
Yay.
we actually stopped in LA on our way out for a couple days, then spent 6 days out on the Big Island, and then stopped in San Diego for a couple days on our way back, and had a great trip. And then I went to the yoga retreat and over Labor Day weekend. That was Labor Day weekend. So,
and remind me where that was?
Oh, sorry, that was Zion National Park in Utah.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah,
that sounds amazing.
It was amazing.
So, did the membership help you? Were you able to fly free on those trips?
Oh, for sure. It was fun because the first trip in April with my friend, I actually named her as my first companion. So she flew free on my companion pass, which was just a wonderful gift to give her. She has been able to give me so many gifts over the years that she doesn't want me to pay her back, but it was just a really fun gift for me to be able to give her. So that was fun. And then of course, switched it to my son. And we did the trip to Hawaii together. So he was my companion for that. So he flew free all the way from Detroit, California, and on to Hawaii and all the way back for free, which was great. And I got some great deals ultimately on those point prices to get to make that trip. And then the yoga retreat was funny because I was able to get ultimately what I thought was a really great point price for Labor Day weekend on the summer craziness of travel. I think I paid 14,000 points round trip for Labor Day weekend to Vegas from Detroit. That's pretty awesome for this year. And so my friend that went with me, I offered for her to fly free with me as my companion. And she said, no. She wanted to fly nonstop on Delta because she loves Delta and wants to fly nonstop, which I totally understand. But it was very expensive to fly on Labor Day weekend to Vegas from here. It just was. And the prices went down somewhat, but I mean, she paid a lot of money. And I was like, okay, well, you could have flown free with me, but you didn't want to. So
isn't that funny? And I mean, it's just a personal preference. Like, the folks that are in the membership are the people that are going to be like, whatever, we're flying free everywhere. If we, whatever we have to do, we don't mind making a connection, and you don't always have to make a connection, but you're not paying a single thing. So I can't hardly even relate to that mindset of, I have a free option, but no, I don't want to have to make a connection. Right. So, but that's everyone's individual preference.
Exactly. And so I just said, all right, that's fine. If you change your mind, let me know. I can work it out and add you in. And she's like, nope, just want to do it this way. Okay. So yeah, but they were great.
Yeah. They all sound amazing in their own ways. And sound like you like national parks and, those kinds of trips too. We have lots of folks who, my family likes to do that too. I feel like we like to do everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Big cities, theme parks, national parks, Hawaii, beaches, whatever. We'll go there. But yeah, definitely, this is a great way to use the membership to fly free to national parks for sure.
Absolutely.
And Vegas is a great one to fly into and do all of Utah. So, how did the membership help you with, say, getting that 14,000 round trip? That is really awesome.
Yeah, for Labor Day weekend. Yeah. For Labor Day weekend, 14,000. I probably could have done better if I'd known a little bit more. I probably, if I'd understood a little bit more, I probably could have done even better. But you learn as you keep going, and you learn how to do the tricks and the hacks as you went along. So, I mean, I was able to book early. That was my first thing that was, able to help me. But the downside of that is that I had a very specific window because it was a yoga retreat. And because the owners were telling us we needed to arrive at the airport at certain times and leave after certain times, it's not like I could say, ooh, I want to, fly at this time and fly on this day if I want to. I kind of had a very small window. So I was able to really use some of the tips and tricks and hacks and things like that to kind of make it happen. One, I was able to move around a little bit and, was able to get a great price on that. Another one, I was able to keep checking and the price went down. And so I just, there were lots of things that I did to make that happen. Like I said, if I was to do it again, I would have done it differently. I probably would have ended up paying under 10,000 points on Labor Day weekend of 2022 to go to Vegas. So that would have been me. I was still very happy with my 14,000 points. It's not going to put a dent or take away from all the travel that will come for my son. And that's the most important part.
Yeah. And so just a couple things that you talked about there that I just want to point out is, one, if you're new to the companion pass, you may not realize you can change companions. So that's a great example of, you can take a friend, you can take your family member, you can take a parent, whatever, and you can change 3 to 4 times a year. So did you find that to be difficult in any way?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all. It was actually really easy. And since I named my friend as the first one, I only changed it once this year, which is how I knew I could really still take my other friend if she wanted to fly with me in over Labor Day. I could still take her and move it back and still, and still be fine to take my son someplace else. So yeah, great.
And then you're basically doing this for 2 people for each trip that you've taken. And just something to point out there is, when you're just doing it for 2 people, like Heather's literally only having to collect points really for 1 person when she's flying Southwest, at least, she has that companion pass. So do you feel like you have had plenty of points to work with?
That was a fun question that I thought about today as I thought about this interview and thinking about that, because I got the companion pass and doing it the way that you and I talked about with the 2 signups, which was great. And but then, so I had all these points and I thought, okay, I'm all set. Well, then Southwest and the Southwest cards came up with their deal again this year, where they were offering 5 points per dollar for a certain time period if you spent money in certain categories. And so I thought, oh, well, okay, I might as well go ahead and, bump my points a little bit, because I do worry about, come when we go to colleges, again, I'm not going to have a lot of choices on when we go, and I'm just going to have to pay the points prices kind of regardless. It's still cheaper to do buy one, get one free regardless. So I'm still going to go Southwest regardless of what happens. But on the other side, if the point price happens to be high and I can't really, use all these great tips and tricks and they happen not to work, I'm still going, right? So I kind of use that as a time to bump my points up a little bit just in case. And I happened to get last year that Southwest card that offered 50,000 points for the first, $2,000 in spend. And then if you spent a total of $10,000 in the first year, then you got an additional 50,000 points. So what was funny is that the card offered me twice this year after I got it and made my initial 50,000, it offered me twice that get 5 points per dollar on, purchases up to X amount of dollars. And so I did that twice, not really intending to get to the 100, get the extra 50,000 points. By the time I spent that money, got the extra 5 points per dollar, I was like, well, I might as well now just go ahead and finish off this card and get the other 50,000 points because I was getting close enough. It was kind of ridiculous not to. So,
right.
So I think I ended up with almost 200,000 points.
So that's been plenty to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. It should be with the tips and tricks we teach, and with buy one, get one free. You should have, and then have a continued replenishment, of points as you go forward. And I mean, we found okay, we're recording this in September 2022, but even we went on several trips this summer, and as we're talking about points prices, and prices overall are higher this year, we paid more points than I prefer to pay. We still have plenty of points. So, I mean, it really all works out just fine. If you need more points, then it's easy enough to come up with a strategy to get some more points. So, so are you able to quantify it all? Do you have a sense of what that savings might have been for you if you paid for those?
Yeah. So the trip to Colorado was kind of in an odd time. So that was a cheaper time to go. I'd say that probably saved between the 2 of us, probably $500 on that trip. The trip to Hawaii was much more fun because I did actually look up at one point a couple months before we went. I'm like, I wonder what it would cost me to actually go on this flight if I was to pay for it. And even if I was to fly on Southwest, but not have a companion pass, I mean, I think I came up with the fact that it was going to be almost $3,000 a person because the flights were so high this year. It was ridiculous. Wow. So it was actually less expensive to fly from California to Hawaii than it was for me to get from Detroit to California. That was the super expensive part of the trip. And so ironically, that was the funny part of the whole thing. The Hawaii part was not the expensive part. So it $2,800, I think, a person that I would have paid in cash to go. And then over Labor Day, oh my goodness. I mean, I looked at prices. I talked to everybody on the trip, and, most people paid anywhere from, I mean, I think the good, easy, cheap price was $350 to $400 over Labor Day. And on the outside, it was like $700 to $800. And I paid my little 14,000 points. It was great.
And didn't you say there was people who had flown Spirit or something like that who were
Yes, there were
thrilled
people
about
on
their
the trip.
experience?
Yeah, they were actually, I mean, it was really funny. We were all talking about, what time our flights left, because we had to make plans to get to the airport, and, oh, what airline are you flying? Because we have to be at a certain place. And everyone's like, oh, I'm flying blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm flying Spirit. Oh yeah, I've got a Frontier today. It was really funny listening to people. I'm like, I'm on Southwest. I'm going to go home.
Not paying $1 and
No,
getting good
not at
service
all.
on top. So
And everybody was just so bummed because it was so expensive to go. Yeah.
yeah.
For me though.
So do you feel like then you got your money back for what you invested in the membership, or more than?
Yeah, I look at that in two different ways. The money part, yes, because obviously I got these amazing trips for, for nothing essentially, except for what I would have spent anyway on just life in general. But really, as a single parent, I really, I don't have friends to talk about this stuff with. My friends don't do points and miles. And so, you just need that backup, that other person to talk to, that other person to run things by. And that was kind of what I gained, that, that extra person to go, yeah, that's a great idea. Or, ooh, try this. And really, the point of me doing this is for the colleges thing. And as a mom for somebody who's aspiring to do something as big as try and go to Broadway, which is really super exciting for him and very talented. And I want to support him in any way I can. I also have to be very aware of the budget. And, in order to do this, I had to find a way to do it. And that was really the most important thing to me. And now I can go into this just saying, where do you want to go audition? We're on our way. And that's priceless to me.
That's so great, because, my goal is really to help bring families together through travel, but this is really helping grant your son the gift of pursuing what he wants to pursue in life. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That goes beyond what I could have ever come up with as a amazing benefit of this. So, and you feel like you've got points to work with to take care of that going forward.
Yes. I mean, I actually even booked a trip in December. If I can, get the tips and tricks to work, that we might have a trip to Miami over Christmas break, which would be amazing. And 6,000 points for that round trip from Detroit. Amazing, right? I was like, I gotta pick that one up.
We're gonna have to have you lead a webinar on how to pay the fewest points during this crazy year.
Right. So, so anyway, so I picked that up, and I'm like, well, if we don't get to go, we don't get to go. If it doesn't work out, it's not going to break my heart. It'd be really cool if it would. But even after booking that, and even after going to Hawaii, and even after going to Colorado and going to, Zion, I still have 150,000 points sitting there. And I know that I'm easily going to be able to take these trips and take my son to the auditions. And my mom actually one day she goes, well, I want to go when you go to, such and such a place, because she has a friend that lives down there. And I thought, I probably have enough points to add her along too. And it just was not even a thought in my mind. And again, the gift of that, it's really about the gift of being able to do that. And my son and I have talked about it numerous times now over the last few months, as now he knows a lot of people who are in the same boat we are, although they tend to have a higher income for their family than we do, which is fine. But they start talking about all this travel and how their parents are worried about it. And they ask him, what are you going to do? And he's like, oh, my mom's got it all worked out. She's got a companion pass and she's got all the points. And they all go, whoa, that's so cool. You're so lucky.
Oh, they could be doing it too. Isn't that the sad
I know.
Yes, and you're also going to need to be able to fly to New York to see him on Broadway too. So
100%. Going to get everybody like in that front row balcony with me, cheering him on the first time.
Yes, how amazing. Okay, so I know you've been very active in the community. So you were just talking about, having kind of that support system and things to bounce things off of other people. Can you talk a little bit about that, or the value you found in the community forum that we have?
Yeah, I love the community because, again, like you said, I'm able to bounce ideas off of other people. And sometimes I feel like I have some odd questions, and I always feel like I connect on certain subjects with certain people on your team, which is really fun. Like Cami, she and I connected over the fact that, and she probably doesn't even realize it, but she and I connected over the fact that she has specialized dietary needs like I do. And so, one time she mentioned in one of the posts that she likes to travel with a collapsible cooler. And I immediately responded back. I'm like, tell me about this collapsible cooler. Like, I want to know about this thing. I never thought about traveling with a collapsible cooler. What a great idea. Kind of connected with her about that. Stephanie, who I also love because I find that she kind of travels like I do. Like, she likes to do regular things, but in a different way and handle it a different way. And that's kind of what my speed is a lot. And so, I've kind of reached out to her on a few things. And, Lisa always asks great questions in the community to try and get people going. And, where are people traveling Labor Day weekend? Wow, I got a lot of responses to my yoga retreat. I was kind of surprised, which is fun.
Everyone was very interested in that.
Which I was surprised about. I'd love to get more single parents on the community because I know you've mentioned there's single people. I don't know if there's more single parents, but it is very different when you're traveling as a single parent. You have different things you have to think about and different ideas of what your budget is like. And, you're a working parent. I mean, you don't have that ability to say, well, maybe I have a parent who can take a couple extra days off before and another parent has a couple days off after. Like, if you're the working parent, you're like, this is what I got and this is what I'm doing. So it's wonderful. I love it. He and I get so close on our trips together and just come back so bonded. And we've done that forever since we've been traveling together, more this year, obviously. So, but yeah, so the community's been a really big help in that respect. I know I had a kind of a back and forth with a bunch of people about, talking to Southwest customer service representatives about various things and just kind of talking about that. And, hey, this has been my experience. What have other people had? And I even mentioned at the end, I'm like, I so appreciate the back and forth because I think people need to hear about it, talk about it, and see what other people are experiencing.
Yeah, and what I love about the community is you get to hear from our team, but also from our hundreds of other members who have a whole lot to offer, But your comment about, the collapsible cooler, like that has nothing to do with flying free, you guys, right? So we talk a lot about other things related to travel. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. Have you found that surprising and helpful?
Yeah, it's been great. And I've gone on and I went on one time and said, hey, Cami, you mentioned something about or that you applied for the Capital One Venture X. Why'd you do that? I'm so curious. I'm thinking about doing it. What do you think? And so we went back and forth in the community and a couple other people chimed in and it was just, again, it was just really great. Other people went, oh, I don't know anything about this one. And I mentioned something else about something I learned about the Capital One Venture X and a travel partner that I thought might be really great. And somebody else joined in and went, oh, I didn't even know they were a travel partner. And that was really an option. And then suddenly in one of the webinars, Cami brings up that travel partner and says, this is how you could use those points. And I'm like, yes, like so it kind of all circles together. And that's great. It's super helpful. And it helps me as a person. Again, I'm a single person and nobody talked to about miles and points. So it's nice to have that back and forth with people.
Well, I think all of us kind of find like the people that are around you, even that you work with or your friend group or whatever, there's not that many people that understand miles and points or even want to.
Right.
Exactly. So it's great to connect with people who have that same mindset, which all of us do, which is fun. Yeah. And just, talking about being a single parent, I'm sure you are even shorter on time, like you were talking about, So how long has this taken you much time to learn our process to FLYFREE and to implement it?
Not really. I was really into miles and points before I joined your membership. I think what really drew me to it was the fact that you really had a process that really focused on Southwest, that really gets into the nitty-gritty to be able to really make it work in a way for everybody. Whereas kind of the general miles and points community, as you mentioned before, it either focuses on luxury travel or they're like, well, here's your points and here's your options. And I look at these points and go, wow, okay, I have enough for 1.5 tickets. not helpful, right? And again, because I joined because of the whole college thing, I knew I was going to have multiple trips. And so when I listened to your podcast probably 8 or 9 months before I joined, and so I knew by listening to your podcast that like you really got into the nitty-gritty of things and really had it down to a science. And that's what I really appreciated. So I really took the time when I joined, like that was my plan. I want to know how to do this and how to make it happen. And once I spent, a few weeks listening and practicing and, kind of getting over the fear of making a reservation and realizing I could just cancel it really easily and it's not a big deal, because that's a fear to get over, that really I could make this happen. And I tried it and got better at it and got better at it. And so, that was a me thing though, right? Like I spent more time than probably the average person would, because I was thinking, I want to know how to do this and I want to be able to make this happen because I have a goal to get my kid wherever he needs to go.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's super important. Like if you're going to make this work, you have to invest the time to understand it. And not that it takes a ton of time on the front end, but you've got to watch what we've set up and follow our recommendations and do the plan that we map out for you. And then you're the people who are successful because you're following our recommendations. But what would you tell someone, since you came in with some miles and points knowledge and experience, like people who are out there who are like, oh, I already got this, or, what would you tell those people would be the benefit of joining?
Yeah. So, and that's funny you asked that question because like I said, I live in a Delta hub and I know Lisa talks about this, everybody in Atlanta has a Delta American Express Sky Miles, credit card, and that's all they use and things like that. And so, I think I would say that it really depends upon your goals. But if your goals is really to travel around the US and go to the Caribbean and go to Hawaii, which really is the most of what most families do, those trips to Europe and something else are, once every few years, which is great. But the majority of what we're trying to do typically as a family is something more within our own borders, or certainly within the Caribbean, right? And so to be able to do that is going to take some really figuring out how to make it happen in a way that's much more affordable. And your program offered that. And that's exactly why I would suggest to do it, because anything else that you do, even if you're just collecting Chase Ultimate Rewards, which are wonderful, as I love them so much, or even Capital One Venture Miles, which I also love so much. And I love both of those before I joined and everything. But the way to use them and the way to really make them stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch is really what got me to the point. I was like, this is what I need to do. And especially as a single parent, I just really, as any family, but especially as a single parent living that life, this is something that you can do and offer to your kids in a way that you maybe never thought possible. And take the opportunity to do it. And I know, Lynn, you've said it, 100 times in the last year. You're like, it's my last year before my son goes to college. And I'm now in the same place. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is, I've traveled more this year than I did in the last decade, essentially.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Yeah. Well, and so you really took advantage of your last two years there, right? I know, it's amazing how fast that time goes once
fast
it gets close in on you. And do you feel like you spend like day to day much time on this now that you understand the process?
Not really. I do check every day to see if my awards bookings have changed price. I do that every day. And if I can make changes or things like that, use all the tips and tricks that you teach. So I do check that for every day, which takes me about 3 minutes. And I can do that at work when I'm walking down the hallway or when I'm on a break or something like that. I can do that. And then I do usually check on Tuesdays when the sales come out, and I see if the sale is good and if there's anything that has come up that I could maybe look at and look to see to book, and is there something that is coming up that maybe I can just throw a booking out there. Again, got over that fear, which is great this year, to be able to just go ahead and make the booking and say, well, if I need to just cancel it, just like the one in December, if it doesn't work out to go to Miami, it won't, but if it does, 6,000 points round trip from Detroit is amazing, so I'll take it. So I just do that. So no, I really 3 minutes a day to check what I have. And then, probably I'm going to say 10 to 15 minutes on a Tuesday, to kind of just look over what the sales are and see if there's something that is good for me.
Yeah, I agree. And it's same on my end. That's about exactly what I do. It just doesn't. And most of it you can do, like you said, while you're on the go. You're standing
Yeah.
in line somewhere, you're taking a walk, whatever, you can
Waiting in
just
a
check your,
stoplight,
yep.
waiting in the turn lane. Yeah, it just happens.
So tell us kind of what your favorite part of the membership, or maybe the most surprising part has been.
The most surprising part would be the little stuff in the community was about, like Cami and the collapsible cooler. Like if I ever thought I was ever going to chat about that on this group, like that was the farthest thing from my mind. So that was really funny. It's all the little things like that. The collapsible cooler, some of the other conversations on the, when I put the yoga retreat up, I had so many people contact, that were responding to that and what was I doing and how did it work and things like that. The getting over the fear, like I can't remember who it was and when it was, but somebody talked about the fear of making those bookings because it felt in the past, it felt so final, right? Like if you booked it, you can't cancel it because it's going to get screwed up and stuff like that. That was huge to have to kind of get over that fear. So that was kind of a surprise, like that was talked about, right? That somebody actually talked about it. And I went, oh, that's me. I need to take care of that too. And just all the little tips and tricks, it's really funny that I can't think of like the big thing, I would, funnily enough, I would not say the big thing being because I saved all this money. It was all these little things that got all put together to be like, I will never travel the same ever again. And again, that's priceless, right? Like it's so much more than saving $3,000 on a ticket, to Hawaii, even though, yes, that is life-changing. And yes, I will do that again, but it was more than that.
Yeah. And once you learn how to do this, you do know how to do it forever. It's a process that you can implement going forward. And just on your, fear of making a reservation. So everyone knows, like, I understand that because that is how everything else in the world works.
Yeah.
You book a flight, we had during the pandemic, okay, they would let you make some changes, but normally you book something, you're locked in.
Right.
And I always say, just this reason alone to fly Southwest, I can't fly anyone else because I just love knowing that if anything comes up or we change our mind, it's just totally not a big deal to cancel or change at all. And left and right, I have flights booked just to see, we might feel like taking this, or it might, like you said, your trip might work in December, it might not. Doesn't hurt to book it. You can just cancel it if it doesn't work. And how amazing is that? So yeah, people just may not realize that is the case with Southwest, particularly when you're booking in points. And we show you how to always book in points, even if you're starting at 0 with Southwest.
And I think that there, on top of that, because of the way that this program works and because of the way that you are constantly having the points available and the companion pass and all that kind of stuff, it's not the end, right? So you don't have to say, oh my gosh, if I cancel this trip, it's the end of the world. So if I don't take the trip to Miami in December, you know what? I still have all these points. I still have a companion pass. I'm still going to go on another trip. I'm already planning a trip, for next summer and next fall and in my head and, where am I going to go? And it's not over, it's not the end of the world because something else is going to come. I will get to Miami at some point, whether it's this time or whether it's 6 months from now. And that's not the way we used to think about it, I think, except when you get to use a program like this and you just don't think about it. So before I joined the membership, I had, booked tickets on American to go to New York in November of 21. And I had to cancel because the restrictions were what we were trying to do, we couldn't do. And so I had to cancel and I'd use points on American. And when I went to cancel my booking, of course you could cancel because it was 2021 and everything was fine. But those points suddenly became expirable in 8 months. And instead of being 3 years, like American Airlines points are, suddenly those points were going to expire 12 months from when I made the reservation. And that it just blew me away. And I was so angry about that because I was so careful in reading all the fine print before I even made the reservation to make sure that I could cancel it because it was 2021 after all. And here I was at the very end and I canceled it and it said, your points now expire June, whatever it was of 2022. And I just about fell over. And I thought, okay, I'm done with that. I'm just done with that. So
I agree. You won't have that on Southwest.
Yeah.
Your points just never expire no matter what. So, and like I said, we've shown you a process so that you always have more points coming in. So it isn't ever the end. You will always, I think some people too have the mindset of like, okay, I have this companion pass for this period of time. I better take everything I can. And then that's the end of it. I'll never have it again. Right. And that's not what we teach at all. This becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it took us years to get to Miami. Miami has been on our list for a long time. And same thing, like it kept it just didn't work. We finally got there in February. We checked it off. So, it is a great place to go when it's cold, for sure.
Oh my gosh. I'm in Michigan. I'm definitely looking forward to it at some point. For
Absolutely. Sure. And then I also just wanted to ask you if you've been on lots of our webinars, right? You've taken advantage of those. And any insight on those?
Yeah, actually, ironically, some of my favorites have been the hotel ones, which is really funny because I'm the vacation rental girl, right? Like I am so not into hotels. It's funny, but I specifically went on them knowing that a lot of these hotels have a timeshare, vacation rental type of a thing. And some of them do offer hotels with kitchens, right? So I'll do that. But usually I find that the hotels with kitchens are actually more expensive than Airbnbs and VRBOs anyway. So I typically don't end up going that direction. So I was the person on the webinars, which you mentioned, I think on the last webinar, which almost was funny because I wanted to raise my hand and go, that was me, who was always saying, what kinds of vacation rental options are there? What kind of timeshare options are there? Can you use points for them? Because that's what I wanted to know. And actually I came away from all four of those, because we did that through the month of August, right? Was the hotels one? I came away from all of those thinking I have more options now. Yay. Like, this is great for me. And so that was what was really exciting. So that was I like a lot of the webinars and, enjoyed learning about a lot of stuff. And I have favorites, but that was a surprise. I went on going, I wonder what's going to happen. And every one of them, I came away thinking I have more options now. And that just makes me happy, that I have another way to go.
Yeah. And that's a little bit of a time investment too, but I think it definitely pays dividends if you're willing to. We offer these webinars for members almost every single week. And so you can listen to them live or you can listen to the recording, but pick the ones that are of interest and you're going to learn so much more than flying free. I always like to say we teach you how to fly free, but then that's step one. And then we help you with where to go and how to save on everything else as a part of that too.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you tell people who, are hesitant about joining the membership because of the cost?
Oh, goodness. There's just so much more than just the cost. The cost is a hard one. I know that I actually had a meeting with you, Lynn, almost a year ago about it, because I was really hesitant about what exactly I was going to get. And if I really wanted to shell out that much money for it, and, what was that going to end up getting me? It's been really great in a sense that not only have I been able to get the support that I needed and the help to get the companion pass and for sure get all that stuff going and add on to the knowledge I already had, obviously, and really dive in and be able to know I can use Southwest in whatever way I possibly can and get wherever I need to go. And know I have that, but really to be able to say, especially those single parents, sorry, I'm going to keep saying that just to, because single parent families, I find really kind of get in two groups. Either they have a lot of money and they can go off and do whatever they want, or they never travel because they never have enough money. And I would say that those are the people that need to really put the money aside, get on board with the membership and figure this out, because it will be worth it forever. And whether it's because you can travel with your kids now and you actually get to make those special memories and you finally get to make those special trips that you wanted to make with your kids, or whether it's somebody like me who's like, my kid has a goal and I want to help them get there and make that happen for your kids. It's just something that you're just not going to regret. It's just never going to be something that you're going to go, I wish I had that money back. No, not really. So.
All right. Awesome. Well, great interview. I love that you're talking about single parents, because that's not anything that I've talked about or interviewed anyone about before. And that's super important. We do have lots of single parents, so certainly can be a great way to spend more time with your kiddos. So love it. You have to let us know where your son ends up going to college and how that all goes, and when he's in his first Broadway show, so we can all cheer him on. But
Know it.
yes, but thanks so much for chatting with us today. And everyone, we will see you on our next episode.